Today I'm reflecting a little bit here on a common problem that's coming to light in many communities where a Catholic school, usually a high school, will have a gay or lesbian teacher and then fire them. And usually they're a well-liked teacher. This happened here at Kennedy High School in the Seattle area, and I have some family that goes there, so I've seen that in the press and so forth. But it's happened all across the country, and usually the diocese is forcing the hand of the school to make these firings happen, and then they hide behind this notion of that the Catholic teachings don't support or are not consistent with gay and lesbian lifestyle, or in some way the whole gay and lesbian human sexuality. So the first thing I want to talk about is just confronting that reality in church doctrine or in church teachings. Now, the church would teach that all human life is sanctified. Each human is its own unique God-created being. Not one is higher than the other. They probably would even extend this to a person that is considered homosexual. However, where they go askew here is in what is called natural law. What has God created? And the understanding of the human psychosexual development process. There's ample studying of how humans are formed in utero through puberty and into their adult sexual life. This research is pretty well detailed. I got most of my information regarding this from a book called Brain Sex. Excellent book, but essentially it documents, from conception on, as the fetus is forming at certain times, different chemicals from testosterone to estrogen and so forth are produced. Then the child forms, male sexual anatomy, and then male sexual female traits, and so on. All this documented that you could come out with a male body and feminine, if you want to call it feminine nature, or feminine characteristics with a male, and so on. You can come out you can end up at the end of puberty with, as we call on the homosexual end, where you're only attracted to the other sex, or heterosexuals, and where you're attracted, and vice versa. So anyway, the science is fairly clear. Where the church is out to lunch is that they've never grappled with the science. And they've never grappled with that, and so they keep this kind of ignorant view that those people and that homosexual orientation is unholy, and therefore they would never sanction a marriage, or which ironically puts the homosexual in an awkward position. They cannot live out a sacramental union. I mean, they put them in an awful position. But back to this unaccepting of the science. This is very problematic. It's similar to what happened with, say, Galileo, and him making this observation that, hey, the Earth isn't the center of the solar system. Matter of fact, the sun is the center of the solar system. And you remember he was He was locked up for that. He was put in jail. This was considered a heresy. The churches have made several proclamations and teachings that have been grossly ignorant. So I have no doubt that within time, not soon enough in my opinion, they will come to grips with the science of human sexual development, realize that no, the creation, the creator, God put it in the in the design for people to end up this way. And then they will have to come to grips with the fact that, well, God created the system, the universe this way, that these people and the relationships that arise from them are truly holy. And that will come. But it's just embarrassing for the most part that they continue these antics. And then, of course, what comes from that is how people are treated. They're fired from their jobs or made to feel like, you know, they aren't good and holy people. So the problem, you know, is that, relating to some of the previous videos I've made, is that we treat other people with moral failings, if we want to call it that. And I am not calling homosexuality a moral failing. Let me be very clear. But they're essentially saying, well, if you are a divorced Catholic, you can come to communion, you can act, and you can even teach our children. But if you're homosexual, you can't. If, you know, you're engaged in a essentially premarital sex, heterosexual relationship, you can teach at our school. But if you're homosexual, you can't. And many other of these, what I would call, you know, moral norms and teachings that the church holds up, we allow those people to be there in our schools and in our lives. And then we somehow take these other folks and we mistreat them. I just find this duplicitous treatment, once again, the height of arrogance, and essentially what clericalism produces is this double standard of treatment. And it is very, very, it's enraging, it's sad, and then, you know, it affects all those students that those teachers care for and educate. It brings just how they're treated, I'm saying, it brings the disharmony to those schools. And you know, it would be different if the schools were holding up the true nature of Jesus' teaching, where they were fighting for a you know, minority, or fighting for a disenfranchised portion of our community, you know, the poor, the weak. But here it is, they're taking a minority and then treating them with the same ill treatment that many of the weak and marginalized we vow to defend. And this is so hard to grapple with as a believer in the Jesus project, that the Jesus system of beliefs, the faith in goodness, the faith that we're here for others, for people, all the values that we uphold are just in some ways just tossed aside in this situation, and I just find that terrible. And I wish we could grapple with this clericalism that brings this, and because it's directly related to this issue. So my heart goes out to those people that have been mistreated this way.